right, so once again, good day, and thank you to all of you for tuning in to our final episode of Rise Up, Shape Up. And for this final episode, I was invited to lead something along the lines of gratitude, which is really a beautiful way to end things. So, just for those of you who happen to be joining us for the first time and you're not very familiar with mindfulness practices or practices like gratitude practices, I'm just going to say a couple of words to give you a bit of a context. Okay. So, in the mindfulness meditation tradition, there is a distinct but related set of techniques which are categorized as the cultivation practices. And just like their name implies, they're about cultivating our ability to radiate, embody, express particular attitudes, particular qualities, which are valued in cultures all around the world. Because when we get to embody them, they make life better. There's more joy, there's more satisfaction, there's more delight to life. And so there are cultivation practices for kindness, for forgiveness, for equanimity, for generosity, for compassion, and for gratitude, which is the focus of our final session together. And the basic premise of the cultivation set of practices, the basic idea is we can actually train ourselves to embody these qualities, because for most of us it's a bit of an implicit assumption that we have to be born in a certain way. And so if I'm not that kind of personality, if I'm not that kind of temperament, then I'm not going to be able to access those qualities. But the underlying belief here is that no, it doesn't matter what kind of personality you have. It doesn't really matter what kind of temperament you have. You become kind because you practice being kind. You become grateful because you practice being grateful. So it's actually a very optimistic view uh, of human nature. It assumes a certain malleability, a certain belief, a certain trust in our ability to change for the better. Okay. Now, when it comes to the gratitude practices, the question is, why practice gratitude? Well, actually, it's not as easy to be grateful as most people think. I mean, it's warm and fluffy, but if we examine our daily lives, so much of the time we take things for granted. There are so many gifts and graces that populate our daily living. Uh, the fact of our health, the fact that we have families, the fact that we have friends, the fact that we have resources. But for the most part, just kind of go along through life, assuming that, yeah, I have that and dapat lang. Okay, so there's a sense of entitlement or a sense of that's just the way it is. Okay. Now, when things are okay, fine, no skin off your nose if you're going to take life for granted. But when life gets hard, when there are challenges, which is the other word for 2020. So 2020 is synonymous with challenges. So when life gets difficult in the way that life has been difficult for so many of us around the world this year, um, that tendency to just overlook what's actually working for us can really make things a lot worse than they seem. So scientists have pointed out that human beings have what is called a negativity bias. So our brains are designed in such a way that we selectively perceive what's going wrong. And many of you have had this experience. Say you have an ordinary day where 10 things happen to you, 9 of which are good things. Guess what? When you get home, all you're going to talk about with your partner or your family or your parents is the one thing that went wrong. That's our negativity bias. Human beings are designed to fixate on what could go wrong, to remember better what goes wrong. So the negativity bias shows up in our cognition in so many different ways. But the point is, if you have an objectively difficult situation like COVID-19, and then you add a layer that's coming from our negativity bias, it can really lead to a very disempowering, a very depressing, a very bleak experience of life. Okay? So you've probably heard of the phrase rose-colored glasses. And fortunately, that's not what we have by design. What we have are glasses which tint everything we see in the worst possible way. So when we are in difficult situations, that negativity bias is going to give us a subjectively worse experience. And so this is where gratitude can make such a huge difference in our experience of life and in our quality of life. Because gratitude is really just leveling the playing field, because we have a bias to see life from a negative perspective. So when we practice gratitude, when we start actively, when we start intentionally trying to focus on the good things, that just balances the negativity bias. So in a way, we finally kind of get to see life from a level playing field. So gratitude is just offsetting that negativity bias. Now, the other way that it benefits us is that it can help us find meaning even when things are hard. When we focus on things to be grateful for, we're not just enduring, we're not just surviving, we're not just tolerating challenge. We actually begin to reframe our challenges. We begin to see the gifts, so to speak. We begin to see how, these initiatory fires are helping us, grow as individuals, how they help us become more resourceful, how they help us realize what really matters. But it takes intention. It takes effort to be grateful. But if we do it regularly as a practice, it does become easier over time. Okay, so what we're going to do for the rest of our time together is we're going to do a gratitude practice. So find a way of sitting that allows you to be upright and alert while also remaining at ease. Just roll your shoulders forwards, upwards, and back. Feel free to repeat the movement a few times, reverse the direction if needed. You can even move your head gently from side to side. And then just allow your shoulders to drop down towards your waist. You can rest your hands on top of your knees or anywhere on your lap that's comfortable for the shoulders. Soften the gaze, or just close your eyes altogether. And just to ease into this gratitude practice, let's just take a few moments to reconnect with the breath. So breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. And now, bring to mind the last 8 months. The last 8 months or 9 months since COVID-19 broke out. And for many of you, the first things that will come to mind will be the challenges, the losses, the difficulties, the people that we lost, the jobs that we lost, the companies that we closed. Just the massive suffering that we've witnessed in our own lives and in the lives of others. And if those are the things that are coming to mind for you right now, just realize that that's natural, that's normal. It's just how our brain works. It's the first thing that it will focus on, the problems. But as you cast your mind, as you look back on these last 8 to 9 months, see if you can begin to find the gifts. What were the gifts and the graces that 2020 gave to you underneath the rubble of loss, underneath the grief and the anger and the inconvenience? What gifts, what miracles, what epiphanies did the year bring your way? Did it give you the gift of realizing what really matters? Did it give you an opportunity to reconnect with family and friends that you hadn't seen in years or heard from in years? Did it allow you to discover just how resilient you can be? How you're stronger and more resourceful than you ever gave yourself credit for? Did it give you a chance to discover new facets of yourself? And so even if it seems challenging, and you begin to find the gifts and the graces of 2020, if you look back over the 8 months, not all of it was bleak. Not all of it was bad. There were also moments of delight. There were also moments of joy. And so maybe just bring to mind 2 to 3 of your favorite gifts from 2020. Two things that you learned, or 2 things that you discovered, or 2 things that you developed as a skill or as a quality. And as you do that, notice the changes in your physical experience. Notice how it feels in your stomach and your chest and your face. Then you can begin to be present to the gifts and the graces of this year. Now let that go. And now shift your attention to bringing to mind someone in your life for whom you're particularly grateful for this year. Somebody who really came through for you in a moment of challenge, in a moment of difficulty. Someone who in their own way was a hero. Maybe they stepped in and helped you financially when you lost your job, if you lost your job. Maybe they helped you find resources when your business, if you have a business, was struggling. Maybe they kept you company if you were living alone in the first few weeks of the pandemic. So just bringing to mind the people who supported you in some way in the last 8 to 9 months. The ones who made you smile, the ones who stood by you, You can pick just one person who stands above the rest. Although usually when you start thinking of one, suddenly you realize that there are so many people. Just becoming present to the fact that you're embedded in this network of care. Just becoming present to the fact that you are loved. And noticing how it feels once again in your body when you can be present to the many things that you can be grateful for from other people. And if you wish, you can send them a silent thanks in the privacy of your mind right now. Now let that go. And now, begin to focus your attention on in what ways can you appreciate yourself given everything that's happened this year. What things have you done? What things have you accomplished that you can acknowledge, that you can celebrate, that you can be grateful for? In what ways have you become a stronger and more resilient person? In what ways have you become more resourceful? In what ways have you stepped out of your comfort zone to do something for someone else? And once again, see if you can actually thank yourself in the privacy of your mind. And as you do that, slowly become present to how your internal experience changes. When you can find something to appreciate in about yourself, when you can express that appreciation. And slowly let that go. Take a few moments to pause once more. Check if there are any observations or insights that came up for you while doing that practice. And before we end, I'll just share this beautiful quote. It's from an anonymous person. It's not happiness that brings us gratitude. It's gratitude that brings us happiness. And slowly just taking your time. If you happen to have closed your eyes, you can open them now. And so on that note of gratitude, I thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure and privilege to have accompanied you for all these sessions, for all these episodes. And with gratitude in my heart, I wish you a beautiful and blessed holiday season ahead. Namaste.